Welcome in. Happy New Year to a new episode of On Isles Time. Brendan Yerkes, Cole Healy. It's been a few weeks, but quite the up and down stretch for the Islanders. They weren't playing their best hockey at times. In their last 10, they're 5-4-1, but the last couple games they've been crawling out of it, and it's been a good start as we crossed the halfway point somehow already of this 2025-2026 NHL season. The Islanders firmly in a playoff spot, still very close, but holding their own at this point, and it's been a sight to see. So, Cole, how are we feeling?
Definitely, after the last two games, feeling better than before that. Two big wins, different types of big wins, but both big wins. Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect to be, what are we, second in the Metro right now?
Yes, we're second in the Metro, and through 43 games played, the Islanders are 24-15-4 for 52 points. They finished the halfway mark at 48, so not at the 100-point pace, but close to it, which obviously puts them better than the last couple seasons. And to be this high this late in the year means something. Now, again, I just said firmly. It's not really the case because Philly's right behind them with 51, and then Pittsburgh in the wild card spot with 49. The next closest Metro team, oh, excuse me, well, the Capitals are there at 50, and then Pittsburgh with 49, and then there's a big gap until New Jersey, but they're only 3 points back of the last wild card spot. So everybody's still in this thing. So the Islanders, a bad week or two, and you could be caught and be out of the playoffs. It's that close. So they've been holding their own, doing a good job with that. I think is after that scare with the last two games, they haven't gone on a big streak of losing games, which is big.
Yeah, and it's, again, much better than I expected at this point of the year. Again, yeah, like you said, everything's so tight now where a couple bad games, and, Matthew Dark said the same thing on, he did an interview with the fourth period the other day. It's like, yeah, you lose two or three games, you find yourself outside a playoff spot. So obviously very tight, very close. But I mean, they look good. They're playing well. Got another 7-game road trip coming up tonight, and we'll see if they finally break the Nashville curse. I think that might be a sign of more things to come. So,
Right.
we'll,
And we haven't seen a season like this, I feel like, ever in the NHL where it's this close, this late into the season. I mean, you got to love it from an entertainment standpoint, and that pretty much every team in the Eastern Conference is in it right now. The West is starting to widen a little bit with the teams that are in it and the teams that are out of it. So that's kind of being settled. The East is starting to get to that point. I would say another month you're going to probably have three or four that are out of it. But it also comes into play that about a month and a half we're getting close to that trade deadline, and some teams you're going to see who's in it and who's out, who wants to make those moves to get better, who wants to sell off pieces. And the Islanders are still in that tough spot where, yeah, they're having a great season, but do you want to mortgage future assets that you have to help the team this year? I still say no on that. I say either leave it as is or still sell off the pieces because the long term goal is winning. I mean, they could maybe surprise some people this year, but I don't think you could bank on that. But yeah, they're in it, and you're saying you didn't think they'd be here. We thought they'd be a playoff team. It's still early, but we thought they'd be a playoff team. Maybe not this high, probably a wild card team. I thought that was possible, but I feel like I said going into this season that I thought it was more likely that they ended up with a Metro spot than a wild card spot, just based on how clogged it is. And so far, that's been true. But again, still a lot of hockey left to be played. We have the Olympic break mid-February, so it's really a sprint to that right now. With Bo Horvat being named to Team Canada, even though he's a little banged up right now. So congratulations, Bo. Well deserved. We were all rooting for him to make that push. We were talking about it, and we kind of were like, oh, this seems a little crazy that we're talking about it. But we manifested it, and, for all he does, killing penalties, scoring goals, he's been all over the ice. The Islanders' best player when he's been on the ice this season, so he deserves that honor.
definitely, yeah, very happy for Horvat. He deserves this. We'll see as we get closer to the start of the Olympics if Matthew Schaefer will be joining him out in Italy. Um, Personally, does he have the talent? I think so. I think you look at what he does on the ice, he deserves to be there. But I'm not gonna be I'm not gonna be too upset if he gets 3 weeks of rest because 18 years old, first year in the NHL, hasn't played a full season since he was 16 years old, and even then he hasn't played a full 82 game season ever probably.
That's a good
So
discussion for us to start, I think. Matthew Schaefer will start, right? Because, I mean, why not every
well,
time?
yeah.
And you raise a good point because I know his dad went on a podcast or radio show in Canada. I'm not exactly sure which one, saying, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for an 18-year-old kid living, somewhere else and, having this grueling schedule to maybe take a few weeks off, come home, be a kid again, and settle in. I see both sides of it because, yeah, it would be awesome to see him go play for Team Canada and represent his country because I'm sure he obviously wants that honor. But then again, having him go home could be so beneficial for the rest of his season and his push for the, putting the Islanders in the playoffs because he's elevated this team. He's the reason they are where they are. He has made things better that he has taken on such a big role that the other defensemen haven't had to do that. And it's made it easier on all them. It's made it easier on the coaching staff, the forwards creating more offense. So him being able to go home and settle in would be big, especially because until these last two games, especially with Saturday, which we'll talk about, his two epic goals in the third and then overtime to come back past Toronto, you're starting to see some signs of him slowing down a little bit. And what do I mean by that? Not that he wasn't playing well, but you could tell that he was kind of not being overworked, but you could tell he's played a lot of hockey, more hockey than he has in a long time in this short of a span, that it was kind of getting to him a little bit. But then obviously now a lot of points in the last couple of days, and it just makes it even more impressive. So, a break wouldn't be the worst thing for him. But so far to this point, he's played every single game this season. Even though he was sick over the weekend, he's still been in it.
Yeah, like I'm with you there. With he's kind of hitting that rookie wall that you see with a lot of guys. I know Isaiah George had it last year, where he was like, I feel like he was great when he first came up. Very solid in the role that he was going to be playing. I think he played 34 games. Like he looked solid. Then yeah, as he got towards like game 30, 31, he started to he started to slow down a little bit. Started to look more like a rookie. He got sent back down to Bridgeport. With Schaefer, like I'm not gonna say, he's not bad, right? He's still obviously I think the best defenseman on this team. But yeah, like you could see just kind of very like minuscule, I guess, mental lapses. Nothing like too like noticeable or not noticeable, but it's not like he's negatively impacting the team. But it's just I feel like there's more where it's like, okay, he looks like that's an 18-year-old rookie right there. That's not, some all-star like it's been around for a while, right? And again, I think we both talked about that going into the year. And he is going to look like there's going to be times where he makes a mistake and you realize, okay, yeah, this guy's 18 years old. And again, yeah, he's not playing bad at all. He's still doing really good. Obviously, that Toronto game was unbelievable.
I
But
can't even believe it. It
yeah,
really just that place was rocking.
dude, yeah, that would have been a nice one to go to.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he's going to be he's probably the Calder favorite right now, even though he's not leading in the points category. Just being a defenseman, the story, and that he's doing it at 18 years old. I think those are all factors that go into this. So right now he has 12 goals and 17 assists for 29 points. He's a plus 10 in 43 games. And it is crazy because you brought it up. We mentioned in the beginning of the year, like, oh, he might have an off night. It's okay if he sits a game here or there. Like we were just like, let's like coddle this kid as much as possible for what's best for his long-term development. Well, seemingly what's best is him going out every single night and playing 20 plus minutes a night because he has been sensational and even better than any of us could have expected. And he's continuing to do that and represent the team well and just bringing a life back to this fan base and this organization that needed it because they're playing all these games. You're getting this national attention and just seeing the building packed and with that energy is just it's been lacking. We've just been waiting for it to come out in the last couple of years, but there's just such a reason to go now just to see him and see this team that it's solely on number 48 for doing that job.
Yeah, he's just completely transformed this team. Matthew Darson, both him and Waugh were big on playing faster. And obviously you have a guy who skates like Schaefer. Your team's going to play faster. Especially with him playing 24 minutes a night. He's out there all the time. I saw a stat the other day. It was about like offensive zone, or I think it was just possession time in general for defensemen. And I believe Schaefer was in third behind Quinn Hughes and maybe Lane Hudson. I'm not positive on that, but he was third in that stat. Yeah, I think I feel like we've said this before too. It's like we expect him to be this good at some point, not 43 games into his career.
And it makes you think, where's he going to be then in 3 years?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Is he going to be like?
He still looks like he's skinny. He's 6'2",
Very
Like
skinny.
he looks like a kid. Like, and once he puts on some muscle, he kind of finally fills out. He puts on some more muscle. Who knows? Maybe he grows another inch at some point. Gets up to 6'3". Like
Possible.
yeah, like he's this good already, and it makes you really really excited for the future. Even just like 5 years from now, he'll be 23, so still very young, and yeah, he'll have 5 years of experience under his belt, which is
And just
insane to think
him
about.
getting drawn into, Tom Brady's brand is just like
Yeah, that
that's a
too.
guy on the Islanders getting this attention. He is a star in this league. I've seen pretty much no negativity surrounding him. Just everybody just can't get enough around the hockey world. That game Saturday was just so important in so many ways, especially that it was on Hockey Night in Canada. It meant something to him, his family, especially doing it for his mom. He's grew up watching, the Leafs play on Hockey Night in Canada. So with his dad watching and his family and, his friends that were there and just getting that towel and just getting the Islanders and that attention and that respect back. Because it feels like, they've been slighted, oh, Lou, and, the boring hockey. You hear about it over and over and over again. But it's like, you know what? This is a message to everybody that Matthew Schaefer is here, and this team is not the same team anymore. And the way they were in that game, that they hadn't scored more than 2 goals for 9 straight games. They were really struggling offensively without Horvat, and they had a bad stretch. They kind of climbed out of it because it seemed like this season could have spiraled right around Christmas time before they had that big comeback win against New Jersey, the first time they beat New Jersey in the last couple of weeks. And then, the Island Schaefer has that awesome goal. You're like, wow, he just went, all by himself around the goalie. And we saw him make that move a lot this year. That was the first time I feel like he scored it. Because usually he tries to stuff it or he doesn't, lift the puck enough. That time he got the lane. I think he usually holds on to it too long or too early, but he found the right time there. And then the Islanders give it right back. And you're kind of like, oh, like, typical. But then they find a way. Heineman scores. Barzal also needs some credit for that game because he had two insane passes. That one to Heineman through traffic on the one timer, and then the one in overtime spinning and just perfectly putting it on the tape of Matthew Schaefer. But it's just that was such a big game in so many ways. And now we're obviously seeing more national TV games, obviously both on ESPN Plus this week. Unfortunate, but in the second half, there's a lot of TNT games which will be big, and you got to think that number is going to be even higher next year, and just put the Islanders in consideration for more things. But you know what? This all starts with playoffs and winning games, and that's what they've been able to do. And Schaefer at the forefront, and I think that translates to Matt Barzal, who we should talk about because he's really been a big help here, especially with Horvat down. That Horvat missed a couple games before, and then he came back, and then went down again. You saw with him down the first time, that's when they were starting to slip a little bit. And now this time with him out, Barzal has really carried the load offensively, defensively, all over the ice. Which he had that incident earlier in the year, but he's just such a leader, and he cares about this team, and he's probably their most skilled guy offensively at this point with Horvat out, and he's been producing. So that's what you want to see.
I honestly think this is the best overall season Barzal has had so far. Obviously 85 points his rookie year, right? He was great offensive. That was Doug Wade hockey, where it's just outscore your defensive issues, which obviously we all know that did not happen. A couple years ago, he had 80 points in 80 games, great that year. But I think just obviously the offensive, he's not quite point per game this year, but recently he's been playing. I think he's over his last like 15 games, he's pretty close to it. And just him, he feels like it feels like he's no longer that young guy. I know, and with the slash on Mason Marchment after we went after Schaefer, right? Like I feel like that's when it really hit. Where I think Barzal said the next day, like he's used to being the young guy the guys are taking runs at, and he always has guys sticking up for him, and then now he's the one doing it for Schaefer. I feel like that's when it really clicked. I mean, Barzal is 28 years old now. He's been around. I think this is his ninth season. Like he's been around long enough, and he's really taken a leadership role, whether he has a letter on his jersey or not. I still think, obviously, got to see what happens with Anders Lee and all the other guys. I think 3 years from now, he should have a letter on his jersey. And that's all the whether it's off ice, on the bench. That's the intangibles. Then the play itself has been great. I mean, yeah, we saw that pass to Schaefer in overtime the other day. Great pass by Emil Heineman, a guy you do not trade. I had to get that Isles House shout out there. Yeah, I mean Nice goal the other day, nice assist for Heineman. Yeah, going back to Barzal, he finally I really can't think of a time where he's been frustrating in the past, right? Maybe
Right. Yeah,
skates
I know a
around
lot
too
of
much,
people get
doesn't
on
tweet
him,
too
just the
much.
skating and the passing too much, but you're looking to say he's a complete player now. That's what
Yes,
he is. It's
that's
all
exactly.
the pieces are together.
Yep. Yeah,
And it's crazy to me that he's 28 years old, like you said. Like it's still weird to get past that it's been that many years since he first debuted. But it's true. That's the reality of it.
yeah. I
But
mean,
we haven't
he's
been able to see him in this type of game since then.
right. Yeah, and since he was a healthy scratch for being late on October 30th, he's like I don't know if it was I don't know if it was just something clicked. I don't know if it was that alone or just started to play better after that, but it feels like something changed after that point. I
It's
know that's
true.
when it was that next day on Halloween was when Sorokin started looking like himself again. So who knows? Maybe that was a wake up call for everyone. And everyone started elevating their game after that point. But
I think
yeah,
it's
I mean,
just
we
that
saw
no one's above the team.
a low point from Barzell there on the 30th, and then yeah, since then he's been unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, no one's above the team, I guess, is just what they're trying to push there. And, with him not having a letter, I feel like if this was a team that didn't have so many veterans and so many guys that have been there for so long, he would have one. I think I said before last season, I was like, you know what, I really like what I've seen defensively over the last couple of years and just him, cleaning up that aspect of his game. And obviously he's, a fan favorite and, respected. And I think people respect him in the room too. So I feel like if there weren't so many guys with letters already, he would have one by now. But obviously, you can't give one to everybody because this team, especially more than others, so many vets, so many leadership based guys that could deserve to have one. So that you lead by example. You don't need to have a letter to be a leader. I always feel that way just from playing hockey myself. What you do matters. What you say matters. How you act. And one slip up, it does not define somebody. They know who he is. They said, you know what, this is a good idea to make a statement, and he understood. It was just like things happen, and nobody, batted an eye. And from that point, it's like, you know what, let's lock in here. And then they've kind of turned it on. So that's been great to see. And with the team winning as of late, good to see him carry the load. So hopefully Horvat comes back soon, because then when the two of them are together in the power play, that's where you've been seeing success. Because the power play, it's been better. I mean, some of them they don't score on, but you see that offensive zone coverage when they're moving. It's when they're stagnant, it's bad. But when they're moving around, they're looking for Horvat in that slot area, and it works really well. But moving on to somebody else who's really turned it on as of late, and that's Callum Ritchie. I know we were excited about him when he first came up, but it felt like there were a lot of games that he didn't have a point. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but he didn't score until against Dallas. But slowly you started to see it improve. The confidence was there. He's gotten better line mates. I know he's on the fourth line tonight, which I'm not thrilled about, but he scored the last couple of games and putting up assists, and his shot is incredible. His hands are immaculate. You see him through the legs with ease. He did it obviously against Tampa when I was there about a month ago, but you saw it just like receiving the puck the other day on a breakaway, just escaping pressure, just great hands and skill. Such a good playmaker, but producing now, and we know he's defensively sound, and the goals are starting to come, and that's what you want to see as he gets further along into his career. You know what's going to happen more. He's still very young. This guy is 20 years old still, so his birthday's later this month. He'll be 21, and now up to 7 goals and 4 assists. He's got 11 points in 32 games, so it seems low, but lately the goals you've been seeing, they're goal scorers' goals. They're not just tap-ins. Not that that matters because they all count the same, but he's producing offense for himself, giving go plays, and this is what you want to see from this kid. Winning faceoffs, and you got to think that as time moves forward, he's setting up to be a really, really good potential second line player in the NHL, and he's really helping this team right now, and he's gonna be big down the stretch here.
Yeah, definitely. It was I think it was the Chicago game he scored early. Just again, nice shot, beat Spencer Knight as he was I guess pushing off going to his left. Richie put it back to the side he was coming from. This is what we expected. Obviously, you trade a guy like Brock Nelson, right? He's great Islander for so long. You don't give him up for nothing, right? And Colorado understands that you gotta give something good to get something good. The Islanders bring in Cal Ritchie in a first round pick, and a lot. I remember when he was traded. There was I don't remember what reporter it was, but someone was calling around, and the general thoughts from the other GMs was they can't believe that they traded Cal Ritchie. And I honestly, I was, going on Puckpedia, whatever, going through potential spots for Nelson before last year's deadline, and like Colorado seemed like a good fit, but I honestly didn't think we would be able. Like I didn't think they would move Ritchie. Just and he has that nice move, the fake where he fans on the shot goes who's backing. I've seen that clip a couple times, right?
Yeah, we haven't seen him in the shootout yet, too.
Yeah, I'd like to see him in. Um, and yeah, like I just didn't think he'd be moved. Just seeing the
Nobody
comments on
did.
that saying how good he's gonna be. Here we are, a couple months later. We see flashes of how good he's gonna be consistently. Yeah, I think it's 3 goals in his last 4 games, something like that.
Yeah,
He's finally settled in, and he's not having consistent line mates either. Lines are shuffling every couple games, and he's still being able to play the same. I really like him when he's with Anthony Duclair. I feel like they were playing well together. I think it was against Tampa. There's a nice give and go where he found Duclair for the
yeah. I like
shot
him
or
and
vice
Shabanoff
versa.
together, too.
Yeah,
That's another good combination. And he's getting power play time. You could see him. He's a power play specialist with the shot and just his playmaking abilities, but he finds that open space really well.
yeah, he's very good at seeing the ice. I know there was the comparison to Patrice Bergeron. I don't think he's going to be quite like Bergeron defensively, but I mean offensively and just his hockey IQ, you can tell that
I mean, a
it's
Bergeron
better
light,
than
sign up for that.
yes, yes, yeah, not
Also, can we
quite
say
as good.
Brock Nelson is having an absolute he's on an absolute heater right now in Colorado. I mean, he's scoring goals like left and right. So pretty good trade for both sides. But I agree with you on that sentiment. When I was looking at trades last year, I saw a mock trade with Cal Ritchie involved for Nelson, and I was like, "There's no way they're going to give him this guy to us." But if we can, that's where I want to trade him. And I was like, if we get Cal Ritchie, that is you know fantastic, and they found a way, and they got a first round pick, which is slated at number 32 right now. But
Yeah,
that's an issue for a later day. But yeah, just love to see Richie playing well at center, and I think while like he's stepped up at center, Pajot really has slowed down from the start of the year. He was playing really well. He had that big goal against Vegas, but he went down with an injury, and then since that point he came back, but he hasn't seemed the same. I feel like face off wise, just in general, something seems a little bit off with him. I don't know if he's still hurt a little bit or he's just maybe rattled from it. But that injury kind of slowed him down, which I don't know because he's the big name that we have as trade bait here as we get to the deadline and with centers being really sought after. But I don't know if they're going to trade him with the team in the position that they're in.
yeah. I feel like going into the year we were on the same page that you have to trade Pajot regardless. Obviously, the fact that they're now second in the Metro kind of changes some things. Pajot's, he's what you're getting with him. You're gonna get some offense, even though he has been slowing down a little bit. He's still like Richie. He has that great hockey IQ. He's great in his own end. You can put him on the second power play. You can kill penalties. Like he really does it all, and that's what teams will overpay for at the deadline. We see it every year. Toronto gave up a first round pick for Scott Lawton last year. Joe, he's tough because you can see him. He's been playing wing recently. Obviously he plays center mainly. Great at faceoffs. That's a guy that every cup winning team has. So I'm with you that we definitely should not be buying anything big, unless it's like a really beneficial deal for the Islanders. Which
And the only move I'm making right now is I'm acquiring somebody on the right side defense.
yeah, that's fair. Get someone else in that rotation.
Or maybe I mean maybe even a left defense, just like rental, just because they keep doing the rotating door. But
Yeah, Romano's
just get
out.
an extra defenseman.
Yeah, but yeah, just going back to Pajot, like that's a guy you win with. So obviously there's no extension in place yet. Matthew Darsh said today that he's had very light discussions, but he's not really going to worry about it for now. We'll see what happens. I still think he's gone regardless. I think some team will offer a first and then maybe like a mid prospect. Um,
It's
and
just
then
so hard to say no to that,
yeah,
just given where they are.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Peugeot's great, and if you resign him, what are you gonna like get him for 3 years or less? Like, all right, like I would sign up for that, like to keep him because I don't want to lose an asset for nothing. It's so hard to say no to a first round pick, especially when you're trying to build a team for the future with an older player. But it's just the other side of it. What message does that send to the team after they battled past expectations and they're putting themselves in a good spot for the playoffs? And again, we have this discussion, I feel like every 2 weeks when we do the show. It's been, I think,
Mhm.
3 weeks since our last one. We've been slacking a little bit. But, as we get closer, the discussion is going to ramp up more. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Because I think he's the only guy in that, in that realm of possibility. Anders Lee's not getting traded.
He's gonna finish his career in
I
Islanders.
never thought that would be a possibility. Like this year, because I was like, maybe like if they're out of it, they're like, hey, would you want to go somewhere? He's not leaving unless he really wants to leave, and I don't see that happening.
He's gonna spend the rest of his career in an Islander jersey. He will be the last Islander to share John Tonelli. He's 27. He'll be the captain the rest of his tenure here, and then I think it gets passed on to Horvat before eventually going to Schaefer. That's another discussion.
Well, how many years do we think he has left, Anders Lee? Because I know Stefan said, I heard him on NHL radio once say that if Anders Lee wants to stay, he's staying, and they're gonna keep him around. Because you know what, that big contract's over. I don't mind anymore. He could be a bottom six player. He could definitely evolve as he gets older and slower. It's just natural. Nothing against him. That just happens, obviously. That he could evolve and play a bottom six game as he gets into the late stages of his career, and still wear the C, and probably still score some goals. And his contract, the price tag's getting cut at least in half here
Yeah,
with his next one, and it'll be short term. So it's a good situation for him to be in.
yeah. We'll see. We'll see. Obviously, what happens with him. He's what 35 now. He'll be 36 in July.
I think so.
Um, yeah. Like he still looks solid. I feel like he's skating better than he ever has in his career. So maybe that work with Adam Oates is going to keep him around a couple years longer. Which is kind of crazy to say because you say 3 more years he'll be 38, and that's kind of when guys start to wrap it up. But he keeps skating like this. Like if he stays healthy that whole time, who knows? Maybe we'll see him play until he's 40. Um, but again, got a long time until then. Still a little bit of time till the deadline. Still about a month and a half out, 2 months out. Um, yeah, Lee will not be going anywhere. Yeah, like you said, no one really expected that. But yeah, it's just so tough with Pajot now. But
Yeah.
all we can do is wait and see where they are about a week out, 2 weeks out from the deadline.
It's been so great to see Lee produce. I mean, 25 points, 10 goals in 43 games, so almost on pace for 20, and that's like you can't ask for more from him at this point in his career. So he's been fantastic. He's played 884 games, so you got to hope he's gonna get to the 1,000. You assume he will within the next 2 years. So yeah, he's been a big piece. He scored obviously against the Rangers in that big win, that big stressful win that we had to sweat out for all 60 minutes of it, but he's coming up big, and that's what you want to see from the captain as we're at this point in the season, and his team is pushing ahead. One thing we haven't talked about yet, what's really been huge, is the goaltending. David Riddick has surpassed all expectations from anybody could have asked of him because he has kept this team in it. That's really, I think, what it is.
Yeah,
Because if he doesn't play the way he does, they lose a lot of the games. He's had 2 shutouts, I think, in recent times. He's saved this team in games where they haven't played great and they haven't scored enough, but he's done his job. And when Sorokin with that injury, that kind of scared us all. We're like, oh no, he's going to be out. Who knows what this is? I think that was honestly smart because you know what? It's a long season. The games are close together. You've seen him get run into the ground before. He's got a little issue, nothing major. He was still skating that throughout that whole thing. Yeah, give him a week off. And then it took a little longer. All right, sweat it out a little bit. But, he'll come back. And he was back in 2 weeks. And then he has his monster performance that he makes 45 saves and breaks the Islanders' shutout record. It's also crazy to have a 45 save shutout in a game your team wins 9-0. But, you
yeah.
know, he's been phenomenal
That was one of the
all
weirdest games
year.
I've ever watched.
It was, yeah, quite interesting. But Riddick just stepping up and winning games that when he was signed, it's like, oh, here he is. Just like hopefully he's half decent as a backup. No, he's been fantastic.
Yeah, he's been. I'm trying to think of the last time we went into a year where we fully expected a guy. I guess it'd be Grice. Was the last time we had a goalie where it was like, okay, this guy's definitely the backup. Because like with Varlamov, Sorokin obviously was the starter, but then you had the idea that Varlamov could be a starter on a bunch of teams, right?
And he
I
was
feel
a
like
starter at one point.
yeah. But like if you go, I think really that first year of Grice where he was like, okay, yeah, this is a backup goalie. You look at him and like that's it. Riddick, this it was 10 years ago we signed Grice going into that 15-16 season. Then here we are with Riddick
Wow.
going into this season. Yeah, that's crazy. You're like, okay, he's you've seen he was an all star I think in 2020. He's had solid years, but it's been a struggle the last three or four. Obviously Varlamov's still hurt, so okay, sure. We need an NHL goalie. David Riddick is an NHL goalie. That's all you could have said about him going into the year. Preseason wasn't. I mean, he wasn't horrendous, but he wasn't great. And then, yeah, I mean, he's come in and he's just been, like you said, so much better than anyone ever would have expected from him. Funny guy, he finally. I know after I think it was the Seattle game, he didn't want to do the interview with Shannon on the bench. She got him for I think it was the Ranger game when he had the shutout. He did the first star interview on the bench after the game. Um, yeah, you need that from a guy like him. And it's you don't actually no, you don't even need that. You need decency. You don't
You
need
need average
yeah,
backup goaltending. We would have signed up for average.
yeah. And this
That's
is
what we're
like
just
this is
saying.
what
After
we
what we
have.
saw last year from him and having him, do that, especially
This,
with key games down the stretch were lost due to backup goaltending.
mm-hmm. This is like Varlamov in 24 because it was like he was the backup to Sorokin. I mean, obviously he got us into the playoffs at the end where he kind of took over the starting job from Sorokin. But leading up to, we'll say through mid March of that year, where Sorokin was still the starter, but for Varlamov, every time he comes in, he's just great, and that's what we're getting now from David Riddick. He's been great for this team, keeping them in games. Even when even he had the off night against Utah the other night, but he played what 7 games in a row, 8 games in a row for a guy. He's on the older end, not super old, but older than I feel like most goalies now.
Woodley too, especially.
Yeah, and yeah, you have a stinker there against Utah, but the whole team was out of it. So if you're gonna have a bad game, that's the game to do it. Yeah, he's obviously starting tonight in Nashville, so we'll see what he does there. But yeah, being able to have two goalies that you can rely on, whether there's a small injury like Sorokin had, or just the guy needs a break, it's huge to have both of those options, and that's a big reason this team is where they are right now.
You said it, NHL backup. Like he's an NHL goalie, and the difference between an NHL goalie and a borderline NHL goalie is night and day. Because we saw it last year with Marcus Hogberg. Like he was solid. He was like, oh, this guy could be it. He could be the backup. But then there were some games that were pretty rough. You think about the one against Calgary last year. They were pushing for the playoffs, and he led in some weak ones. And there's some times where that's going to happen. They had, and in years past, they had nobody. They had, I think Ken Appleby was the backup at one point. There was somebody else who I think sat on the bench. So you got to have contingency plans and sign guys to back up and for Bridgeport. And these things matter because you could seriously hurt your chances of making the playoffs if you have poor backup goaltending. You're seeing teams get killed by it that don't have good goaltending at all. Look at Edmonton. Look at a team like the Senators right now. They're getting horrible goaltending, and they're way down in the standings in an Eastern Conference where it's close. They made it last year, and they feel like they should be in it again, but their goalies are letting them down, and that's what's killing them right now. And I know we've been pretty blessed over the last decade or so with goaltending for the most part. Obviously, it hasn't been perfect, but a lot of people, not a lot, I'll say. Like some people have had frustrations with Sorokin, but think about what else it could be. I mean, we've had for years since I think Nabokov. He was at the tail end of his career, and those teams weren't great when he was there. They made the playoffs once, but having Halak, having Grice, having into Robin Leonard for one year, and then Varlamov was just such a big signing that was so underrated. Nobody was happy about it at the time because Leonard was going, and Varlamov has been such a key piece. He was there for the two playoff runs, and you know took the lead on those, and then Sorokin kind of took over after that, and he's been great. And then the last 2 years he's been just okay, but still, some of these teams just like imagine the Oilers right now with a competent starting goalie. They probably have two Stanley Cups.
Yeah,
So it's just to have this goaltending and to be in these games, especially when we've only scored two for 9 straight games and having a stretch like that. Some of the games, the defense is a mess, or they can't score. There's nothing going offensively, but you're not going to win every game. But in those stretches where the team isn't looking good, getting that consistent goaltending, Sorokin playing at the elite level that we know he can be, and consistently doing that, he's in the Vezina conversation, or he should be. He got snubbed from the,
I don't know how he
but
wasn't even in the conversation there, but
it's asinine, but we'll see. But goaltending matters, and this goaltending has been honestly one of the biggest strengths of the team this season. I don't. It probably is.
Yeah, like outside of Schaefer, the goaltending is the biggest storyline this year.
And that's where they stood the last few years. Sorokin was just lost after his should have won the Vezina season. Still ridiculous they didn't give it to him, but that's where we are. And the team is playing well. Again, the team is fun. There's juice. They 7 straight sellouts at UBS Arena. Like I said before, the place is jumping, and it just feels like 4 years of UBS Arena. Like this is what everybody expected the first year. A fun team that can go to the playoffs and bring the excitement. And I think so many people were like, this team should go nowhere and trade and sell and then start it back up again. No, this team is fun and they're not going anywhere and they're going to be in it.
Yeah, yeah. You have the pieces like Barzal, Horvat, and Sorokin. Those are three huge pieces. You can't completely blow it up with those guys. Obviously Barzal and Horvat both have no trade clauses. Sorokin's got a full no move clause. So again, yeah, it obviously would have been up to them for anything to happen. But yeah, like I never understood that. You have Barzal, who's he's older than he was, but he's still 28. He's still playing some of the best hockey of his career. Horvat's 30, but I feel like I think this is his best year as an Islander. Um, he struggled after the trade, but then the 2 seasons since then he's been really solid, and then he's taken another step this year. And then Sorokin, obviously, like you said, for the first time since that Vezina runner-up season, he looks like himself again. And if we can imagine the narrative, if he played like this the last 2 years, it would have been completely different. And now we're seeing that out of him. We're seeing Schaefer on the back end now, and you're gonna have guys now that sign here that want to because they want to play with Schaefer, and like that just changes so much for this team. It opens up the cup window even longer. So yeah, it's huge. We have 4 huge pieces now to. I mean, Schaefer's obviously the big one to really build around. But then if you can add some guys in down the line without sacrificing much of the future, like the pieces have always been there, and we're finally seeing them perform the way that I feel like some people had really expected them to always be.
And you can't blow it up with a goalie that good. If you have it, your team was going to not be horrible. We just struck gold and won the first pick, which is, makes it easier. We don't have to tank. We have the star already. And now think about it. If you build your team the right way with prospects through this retool while playing well, still having good players and still compiling assets, think about it. You become a destination, like you said. You could sign players easier, and you know what? You could, even when you have a team that's good enough, have extra first round picks and then have prospects that have nowhere to go. That's when you swing them, and then you can make a trade for somebody who becomes available. Like, think about the Matthew Tkachuk situation. Say this team in 3 years from now, they're looking for that other star, that offensive star to kind of help push them over the edge, like Florida was, and then say, you know what, you could take a big swing with somebody who's been here that's been good, and pull off a situation like that. That was unique because a lot of players resign now, especially with the big salary cap. But again, you never know what could happen. And this team, and in their, we could still call it a retool if we want, but they're doing it on the fly and not just saying, here's what's going to happen. And the few additions they made this year have been big, and then you got to even think next year it's going to look a little different too as more of their prospects come up and up and up. And just it's been so much fun to watch this year. It's just been so hard and just dry for the last few years, and it could be much worse. Obviously, we could have been one of the worst teams in the league, but just to have so much fun watching this team and just the vibe on Long Island, just talking to people, and everybody's all in again, and it's just so great to see. I mean, obviously, we were both all in no matter what, but there's just there's some people that aren't as dedicated. So everybody's kind of coming back in, and that's been great to see. It would have been nice to be at some of these awesome games. I know I wanted to say on the pod that Cole finally made his first trip to UBS Arena, and unfortunately, it was the Canucks game, which I think was the Islanders' worst home showing of the season. They gave up 3 goals in the first period and lost 4-1 with an empty netter. So tough night there. We had fun, but it was
Yeah.
it was a tough
Great
night.
building. The park was great. Heineken Terrace is great. Yeah. Beautiful building. Very glad I made the trip. Would have liked to see a win between the 2 games I've been to this year, were that one and then the one in Raleigh, October 30th, when Barzal was a healthy scratch. Yeah. Haven't seen a win since Barry Trotz's first month as coach. So it's been quite some time. But
Yeah.
who knows? I'll give it another shot in I think it's April 4th in Raleigh.
And we
So
got the cursed Nashville game tonight. Haven't won since 2017, which is an
yeah,
insane stat
free trots.
in itself. That's like 9 years ago. And I was at the one which I mentioned on the pod before last season, which was towards the end. It was kind of like they weren't making the playoffs at that point. It was I think the last like probably 6 games maybe. Like it was pretty much set. Like yeah, they're done. But still you go to the game, make that trip, want to see them. Like Nashville's awesome, but we had some great seats and they were up by 2 in the last 2 minutes. Somehow lost in overtime. But listen, we got the first pick, so who cares?
Everything went
But
exactly as it was supposed to.
yes, everything went perfect. And now I'll say, before we have our final discussion here, that I'll be at the game on Saturday. I'm making the trip to Minnesota, so I'm excited about that. It's going to be cold, but the Wild are a really good team, so it should be hopefully a fun game. The last time the Islanders played the Wild was not a good game. They lost 4-2, but the score is closer than it really was. The Wild skated circles around the Islanders, were up early and kind of took that to the end. Need a better showing, but excited to check that building out and see those fans up there because it is the state of hockey, as they say. So should be pretty fun. But our final discussion, World Juniors, was over the last couple weeks. Islanders had 5 prospects in the tournament this year, which was fun. Usually we don't have that many. Usually only 1 or 2, just with the lack of draft picks, at least elite level. But no, it's a lot of fun. We had some high-profile guys. Obviously, Team USA had Cole Yzerman and Kamil Bednarik. A lot of people were a little concerned with Yzerman and thinking he didn't play great. I get it a little bit, but to me, it's the coach. The coach didn't play him. They didn't play him last year. It was obviously a different coach. It was David Carl. This year was Bob Motzko, and they don't put him on the ice. They put him on the fourth line. He's not a fourth line player. I get it's a really skilled team, but you saw last year what he could do. And at BU, he's producing. So I don't understand this at all. Like Bednarik, I get he's especially on a team like this, he's a penalty killer, like minute eater, like stuff like that. But the Yzerman disrespect is crazy. I mean, like some people are saying, he's like, maybe he's not the player we thought he was. Like we know that he's not like he still has to work on his skating and his all around game, but when he gets the puck, he scores. Like I don't understand. Like he could make a whole career like Ovechkin did out of that spot and just score goals.
Yep. Yeah, he's like you said. Last year he was the 13th forward, got a lot of power play time. That was expected with some of the guys that were on that team. This year he was, he's one of the guys that had already been drafted. A guy like that, like you've seen, he scored 25 goals last year as a freshman at BU, and obviously had the injury this year, so maybe he didn't fully ever come back from that. I haven't watched a ton of BU this year like it was last year, but he's had solid numbers there so far. He had a couple goals at this tournament. You would have liked to see some more if his minutes weren't as sheltered. It's unfortunate. I saw a tweet today. It was Motzko was playing, or he was coaching to not lose. He wasn't coaching to win, just to not lose. Not as he wasn't making some of those more aggressive moves to try and really go for it and go for the win, which may be a big. That's part of why Yzerman didn't play as much. But it is what it is. Tournament's over. 5 games are over. He'll get back to BU, and I'm sure he'll go back to tearing it up.
I mean, Pandolfo's the coach he needs. Islanders aside, they were not coached well at all. Like you said, Team USA lacking David Carl was big. Hopefully they bring somebody else instead of Motzko next year. Obviously the team wasn't as good. Just looking pre-tournament wise, I was thinking it was either Canada or Sweden's year, just because they're both loaded. So it's going to happen year to year. You're not going to have the best roster, so it's fine. But it's everybody wants to fight on social media. That's how it is at this point. But 3 Islander prospects took home a medal, and third, getting a bronze was Kayshawn Aitchison, who's also drawn a lot of concerns from people just for his he looked a little lost defensively at times, and his skating wasn't great. And they say, his passing needs to improve. His IQ's not there. But just I see just a young player, a more physical type defenseman. He did score 2 goals in the tournament. And, he's a project. He's not a guy that's going to be ready next year or the year after. He's a guy that's going to need minutes. And, he's big. He's in his frame already. But just he's going to get smarter. He's going to pick up the pace with the game. And, working with the coaches more, he's going to get to the point where we want him to. I'm not pressing the panic button on him yet. He's a first-round pick with a lot of potential. And even if he's not an offensive guy, he has the skills to be a shutdown more physical type defenseman. So I think you probably share the same sentiment with me there.
Yeah, I mean he's also what is he? He's either 18 or 19. I feel like he's a late '06, so he might be 19 now. Um, like defensemen take so long to develop. That's why what Schaefer's doing is so impressive. He comes in at 18, barely 18, when he plays his first game, and he's just been incredible. Like not there's really has there been any defenseman in the last 20 years to do that? Like, I don't. I mean, Darlene was solid, but he wasn't this good.
I mean, it took Kale
Yeah,
McCarr like 2 years.
yeah, exactly. Like Aitchison is. We're seeing what he's doing with the OHL. His offensive numbers are great in the OHL this year. He's gonna take some time. Obviously you see the big hits, you see the offensive highlights. I mean, he's solid defensively. Yeah, he's probably got to work on his skating some, but he has plenty of time to do that. If he comes up at 22 years old, like that's not unheard of for defensemen. And then once they're up, it still takes them so much time to develop and really fully adjust to the NHL. So yeah, people are really going hard at Aitchison. I don't think it's all. I mean, yeah, sure, he wasn't great at times, but it's not like he's very close to playing in the NHL. I don't think anyone expected him to be in the NHL next year. Um,
Everyone just wants to
it's
overreact. I mean, we're just overanalyzing everything. It's just,
yeah,
he had a couple big hits. That's what you like to see. He scored 2 goals. His shot's great. And let's slow it down a little bit. Like, here's an example. Not that they're the same player, or like, you see some similarities, but Ryan Pollock was drafted in 2013, around the same spot. I think it was like
I think
15th,
he was
maybe.
15. Yeah,
Like he was right in the middle. I think it was the Islanders were the first team to be eliminated from the playoffs, or like they were the lowest seed. So they were picking 15th, and first round pick. He made his NHL debut in the spring of 2016, and then played a little bit the next year, and then didn't fully make the jump to the NHL. He played only one game that next season. He fully played his first season 2017-18. That's a good 4 years after he was drafted. And now, look at him. He became one of the best guys they have. Obviously dipped down, but now playing at that level again. So defensemen take a long time, and most players take a long time that aren't top 5, top 10 picks. Especially even some of those take longer. Like next year's draft is, well, I guess the one this year is going to be a really big outlier because there's so many highly skilled players. This is a really good draft. But especially last year's draft where they said, this one's not as deep. It's going to take these guys a couple years before you start to see it. You saw it in 2022, and you still haven't fully seen the benefits of that one. So it's a process, and you're not going to really know until after the second year. That's when you really could tell the guy's trajectory for any player what they're going to be in the NHL, if they're going to be something, if they're not going to be what you thought they were, or if they're going to fill out that potential. But that's when you really know, and then you could adjust, say, hey, maybe it's not going to be a top guy like we thought, but he'll still be pretty solid, or maybe he'll be better than we thought. That's the second year after the draft is when you really know. And, we should not press the panic button on Keishon Aitchison or, Cole Iserman, because they have the skill, they have the potential, and you know that they're in good places for their developments. Any more thoughts on that before we keep moving on?
I mean, it's all and to build off of that. Like it's Aitchison played 7 games, Eiserman played 5. Like you can't. Obviously, the World Juniors, it's great competition, great tournament, best tournament for the guys in the age range. But at the end of the day, it's a handful of games. If you're gonna only make these judgments based on a handful of games, then you're obviously not qualified to be making strong player evaluations. You're not going to
Right.
watch the rest of the
And
season.
more on this, Victor Eklund wins the gold for Team Sweden, which is awesome. He had the goal that almost was the game-winning goal, the second one, cleaning up after a pass right in front of the net, tapping it in. He had a really good tournament. Didn't produce as many points as we thought he would. I think did he have 8 by the end?
Yeah, he had 2 goals, 6 assists.
Yeah, so you probably want more, but he's a smaller guy. He's gonna have to grow into his frame more. But there's been concerns about him all year. Just only has assists. I think he has like a goal and 15 assists this season. It's like, you know what? He's playing in a pro league with men that have played there in Sweden for like 10+ years. Like some players spend their whole hockey career there, especially locals. So you know what? That's pretty good that he's putting up those points. You want more? Yeah, you want more goals, but again, he's not playing in the NHL next year. He's probably not playing in the NHL the next year. So it's just to see him go out there on that stage playing with 2 great players, to be considered one of those better players on that line, playing with Frundell and Stenberg, which is just super impressive. to be a Sweden team that's won their third gold ever at the World Juniors is something you want to see. He was great, and again, you don't trade a draft pick that turns into Victor Eklund. Let's just say that
Yeah.
he was good,
Yeah.
helping them win the gold. And then I'll let you go in a sec after I bring up who lost in the gold medal game. He ends up getting the silver. Is Tomas Politin, and you know what? Out of all the prospects that we had in this, I'm really excited about him. He was a fourth round pick that, you know, might become a steal because I just love the way he plays. And I know over the summer after he was drafted, just reading up on him, obviously he went one to Kelowna in the CHL import draft. He's been scoring goals all the time up there. He's physical. He's really fast. He's kills penalties. He gets power play time. He's a net front guy in the power play, which you could use another one of those like Anders Lee. And he's really, really excites me for what the future could hold for him, especially as a fourth round pick where it's always like, yeah, we like to gas these guys up because they're Islander prospects. But him especially, you could see it, and especially on a Czechia team like that was really good and played a really good team game. And you know he's going to come back next year to this tournament, probably with a letter on his chest and hungry to go back to that gold medal game.
Yep. Yeah. There's one more thing on Eklund. Obviously, great tournament overall, and then winning player of the game in that gold medal game. So that's another thing you love to see. And then yeah, I'm with you on Politin. He looked great. I feel like with him, even I don't think anyone's really expecting him to be. He had 4 goals in 7 games, right? No one's expecting him to be, like a top line guy in the NHL, right? But I like the way he plays. I feel like translates so well to the NHL, where even if he's not scoring, he's doing everything else right. It's like he could be like just a really solid third line, maybe even second line, just winger, scores some goals, plays solid defense, goes into the corners hard, battles. Like that's you need, again, like I said with just earlier with Pajot, you win games with guys like that. You win Stanley Cups with guys like that. Politin fits that mold. Obviously, a little different than Pajot, but it's the same thing. You win with guys like him. So if he can come over to North America, maybe 2 years from now, right? I don't know what exactly his or not North America, but just like into the AHL. We'll see. We'll see how he does in Bridgeport, and then who knows? Maybe he's the guy that comes up at 23, and then just find some success. We'll see. Plenty of time for that. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm really excited about him. Obviously, had the game-winning goal against Canada to knock them out. Um, a little odd there. Kind of just went off his skate. But again, you need a net front guy. He
Right
was
place,
there.
right time.
Exactly. Yeah. Goal
And
scorers
just they
go.
had a lot of good looks like too that he didn't score on, like shorthanded breakaways and shots that missed the net and stuff, and set up some good plays where we wouldn't get an assist. But 7 games, 4 goals, 2 assists, nice to see, and just an overall pretty good showing from everybody there. So excited about that and excited about the Islanders. I think that's a good place to wrap. Long episode, but it's been 3 weeks. It's just with the holidays and stuff. We haven't been able to record, but we wanted to get this one in. Follow us at ONISLESTIME on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And yeah, look out for me at the game in Minnesota. Hopefully the Islanders can keep it rolling as they start their second 7-game road trip of the season. Remember how good the first one went, 6-1-0 on that one. So hoping to keep that rolling. But yeah, for On Isles Time, Brendan Yerkes, Cole Healy, thank you so much for tuning in.